Welcome, and thanks for taking a tour of Arcserve Unified Data Protection, a solution that combines industry-proven backup, replication, high availability, and true global deduplication technologies within one unified solution. Let's begin this tour by authenticating into the Unified Data Protection console. This is easily done by inputting the username and password information. Once authenticated in, you will have a welcome console which gives you a series of wizards which will allow you to begin protecting your nodes right away. You will be presented with three panes. Add nodes to protect. This will allow you to add the machines that you want to back up. Add destination. This will allow you to define where you're backing up to. And create a plan. This will allow you to create your backup plan itself. You can also check the box in the bottom left, do not show this message again, to prevent the pop-up from coming up in the future. We are now in the UDP console. You'll notice some tabs across the top that will be used to navigate to the different sections of the console. The dashboard tab is where we will see a brief overview of the state of our backups. Under last backup status, it can be categorized by all nodes, nodes without a plan, or any specific plans that you have created. Under the raw data and actual data storage for the last 7 days, you can see the amount of data that you're actually using opposed to the amount of data that you would be using without deduplication. Under restorable data and actual data storage for the last 7 days, you will be able to see the amount of data that's actually being used as opposed to what would be required to restore that data. Actual data storage is the actual data storage that's being used. In the Resources tab, we will do the majority of the configuration for Arcserve UDP. This is where we will add the nodes that we wish to protect, deploy the agents, define our destinations, and create our backup plans. We can also do our restores from the Resource tab as well. We will begin under All Nodes, and we will click the Add Nodes button. We'll have several options for the way that we can import nodes into UDP. We can import Windows or Linux nodes via IP or qualified domain name, add a Linux backup server node, discover nodes directly from Active Directory, import them from a file. If you're running VMware, we can import from vCenter or ESX. In the case of Hyper-V, we can import directly through Hyper-V as well. We can also import nodes that are currently in Arcserve High Availability. In any case, any machine that currently has Arcserve Backup on it, you would let us know by checking the Arcserve Backup Installed button. We will automatically add the recovery point server information into the Arcserve Backup to streamline this process for you. Once your nodes are added, you will click the Save button. In our case, we already have some nodes added. The next step would be to deploy an agent. We have several methods to deploy agents. We can check mark the boxes, go up to Actions, Install Upgrade Agent, or right-click on a machine, Install Upgrade Agent. Under Install Upgrade Agents, we'll have two options. We can choose to install over HTTP or HTTPS, install the agent tracking driver. Then we will be given an option for when we wish to reboot the system. By default, it's manual, but we can schedule it at a defined time, or we can choose it to automatically happen as soon as the install is complete. We would then click OK, and the install would occur. Once the agents are deployed on the physical machines that you wish to protect, the next step would be to define your backup destination. Okay, under Destinations, we will click Recovery Point Servers, add a recovery point server, choose the server that we wish to be our recovery point server with our permissions to authenticate to that server, and give it a description. This will be similar to adding an agent to a machine that we will choose to install over HTTP or HTTPS and install a change tracking driver. We also will have the option to reboot manually later, at a scheduled time, or immediately after the install. After choosing the reboot option, we'll click Save, and the software will be deployed on the recovery point server. Under the recovery point server in the console, we will right-click and add a data store. In the data store, we will give it a name, a backup destination folder, choose our compression type, no compression, standard, and maximum compression. Choose if we wish to limit the concurrent nodes that can connect to that data store. Choose if we wish to encrypt. Choose our encryption and give it an encryption password and confirmation. If we wish to deduplicate, we will select Deduplicate Data and give it 3 destinations. The first destination is for the deduplicated data itself. This could be a destination such as a NAS box, direct attached storage, iSCSI or SAN target. The next option is the index. We have to give a destination for the index to be saved. This should be a separate location than the data destination. The final destination is the hash destination. This destination is for the hash process itself. By default, it will run in memory. However, we can offload that to an SSD to lessen the requirements for the memory. We will also set our hash memory allocation and our deduplication block size here. By default, we choose 4K block size, which is the most granular and should give you the highest ratios for deduplication. This will also require the most resources. We can scale the deduplication block size down and require less resources. However, our ratios probably will not be as good. We also provide an estimate memory and storage requirement tool at the bottom. You can scale this based on the amount of data that you will be backing up to the destination, the compression ratios that you expect to get, as well as the compression ratios. You can designate whether or not the hash will be present on an SSD drive and the size of deduplication that you wish to use. You can use this tool to get a good understanding of the data destination space that's required, the space that's required for the hash process, and the memory that will be required in order to do that hash as well. Once our destination is configured, then we can go into Plans and create our backup plans. Under All Plans, select Add a Plan. We will then name our plan, choose a particular type of task by clicking the Task Type drop-down. Choose whether or not it's going to be an agent-based Windows or Linux backup, an agentless backup, a replication from a remote recovery point server, or virtual standby task. In our case, we'll choose agent-based Windows. Under Source, we will select the drop-down for Add Nodes and select Nodes to Protect. We can also discover nodes at this point if we have not already done that. Under Select Nodes to Protect, all the nodes that have been added will be listed. If we were to do an agentless backup or a Linux backup, only those particular nodes would show up. We will select this particular node, which does not currently have a plan. We will select the arrow to move it over to Selected Nodes and select OK. Under Destination, we will default to Recovery Point Server. It is important to note that we could also back up to a local disk or a shared folder. If we choose this option, we would provide the destination, whether or not we wish to encrypt the data, whether or not we wish to compress the data. In our case, we will use a Recovery Point Server. Under Recovery Point Server, we will add the Recovery Point Server we wish to back up to, the data store on that Recovery Point Server, and we will give it a session password. Under Schedule, we will default to a daily infinite incremental backup taken every day at 10 p.m. We can left click on this and we can change it from daily to weekly to monthly or even custom throughout the day. We can also change the type of backup from being incremental to full or even a verification, the time it runs, and deselect particular days that we do not wish it to run. And finally, our retention period can be changed here as well. We can also add additional backup schedules. Perhaps I wish to do a custom backup throughout the day. It defaults to every 3 hours between 8 and 6. We can take a snapshot as granularly as every 15 minutes as long as your data changes allow for that. We could add additional backup schedules. We could add a weekly, where every Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or whichever day we wish, we would take our snapshot for the weekly. Our retention, we'll keep this at incrementals. We'll add a monthly as well. We'll retain 12 of those, and we'll keep it to the last day of the month. We'll take that snapshot. Other schedules which we could add a merge schedule if we wish the merge to happen at a different period of time. What day of the week, what time do we wish it to start. We could also throttle the backup by adding a throttle schedule and set our throughput limit here. It's important to note that we always must have at least one custom schedule within our backup plan. Also, catalog files are not generated by default so that we may take faster backups. However, catalog files would be then generated at time of restore. If a machine has Exchange on it, then we must generate the catalog file at time of backup in order to have granular restore. We would then go into our Advanced tab. If we have SQL or Exchange on a machine, we would choose how often we wish to truncate those logs. If we wish to run any types of script before and after the backup, we have the areas to input the scripts here. And we'd also provide the permissions to run those scripts. Under email alerts, we'll first go into email settings, choose the type of email we wish to use, the port which it's going to use, whether or not it's going to require authentication, the subject, who it's from, the recipients it's going to, the format of the email, and whether or not it needs to go through a proxy. We would then test the email to make sure that it works. Job alerts can be tied to missed, failed, crashed, canceled type of jobs, such as backup, cataloging, replication, file copy, restore, or copy recovery point jobs. We can also see successes of those as well. And we can see failed and success merge jobs. Under Enable Resource Alerts, we can be alerted if the processor utilization, memory, disk throughput, or network I/O goes over a certain percentage that we define here. We could then save our plan, run some test backups, and verify that everything is working. Once that's done, we can go in and add additional tasks by selecting the Add to Task button. Let's take a look at adding a replication task. We'll choose Replicate from the drop-down menu. Our source will automatically be the target from our backup job on our first task. The destination will be another recovery point server that we have identified, and a data store on that recovery point server. We can also set what happens if the replication job fails, how many times should we retry, and what's the time period between retries. Under Schedule, we can click Add, and we can add a replication job schedule if we only wish to replicate between certain hours of certain days. We can also add a replication merge schedule, and we can also add a throttle schedule. This can limit the amount of bandwidth that we use during certain periods of time on certain days. If we leave it blank, it'll be continuous replication with no throttle. We can also set different retention periods for the recovery points here as well. Perhaps we want to keep 3 years at this site. The final tab, Advanced tab, is used for email alerts tied around replication and the merge schedule. We can continue to add tasks by clicking Add a Task and choosing the type of task that we would like to add. Perhaps we'd like to add virtual standby, define our virtual environment, and go from there. Perhaps we'd like to copy our recovery points off to another disk destination to manually move them to another location. In a later video, we'll take a look at some of the more advanced features like virtual standby. Let's go back to the Nodes section. You'll notice under the Resource tab that I have several groups here created, such as vCenter, VM Backup Proxy Groups, Linux Backup Groups. These will be added as we define machines such as Linux machines or virtual environments such as VMware or Hyper-V. These groups will be added. As we create plans, those plans will be added to the plan groups so that we can better organize and work through the different plans that we have. If we wish to restore, we can either go up to all nodes or we can go to plan groups and do the restores directly from here. Let's do ours in all nodes. We'll take a look at the machine that we wish to do the restore from. Right-click on the machine, choose Restore, and it'll log into the agent, giving us several options here for the restore. This particular machine has Exchange on it. Let's take a look at an Exchange restore. We will choose the Restore Exchange Mail. Notice there is the calendar with the time ranges when we have done backups. We'll choose the particular time of the backup that we wish to do the restore, choose the mailbox, and click Next. Now I can go into the users. I only have one user, the administrator. I wish to look at their inbox, and we can restore an individual email directly from there. Select the email, choose Next, and now choose where I wish to restore it to. It'll default to the original location, and it'll automatically fill in the username and password. There will be some other options here, such as the cast name. Or if we wish to restore to an alternate location, we can choose that and give the alternate location along with the permissions. We'll also be prompted for any encryption or password protection that's required. We'll then choose Next. Let's also take a look at a file level restore. We'll choose Browse Recovery Points. Like before, choose the date and the timestamp. Now we can dive down into the individual volume and look for the file that we wish to restore. We will select it. Do I wish to restore the entire folder? Or go into the folder and grab an individual file. Let's choose our file, choose Next, restore to original or alternate location. How will we handle conflicts such as overwrite existing files, rename files, or skip files? Like before, we'll be prompted for any encryption or other password that's applied. We have another option for file level restore, and that's by using Windows Explorer. Here I've browsed out to my data store. You'll see I have my production machine listed here. We can right-click on the machine, choose Change to Arcserve UDP Recovery Point View. This now allows us to view the recovery points based off the timestamp. While we are browsing the recovery points, the merge process will be skipped. However, backup can still occur. We'll choose our timestamp, choose the volume, and browse into the individual file. There's the demo, there's the test file that I'm restoring through the interface. We would now just drag and drop and copy the file where I wish to restore it to. When we are finished, we'll merely go back to the beginning, right-click, change windows to normal view. Now the merge process can once again occur and bring you back to the number of recovery points you should be at. If you forget to do this final step, there is a notification that can be set to be notified that merge process was skipped. This should be a notification that you turn on. Let's take a look at some of the other restores. Let's take a look at Active Directory Restore. Let's go into my domain controller. I'll right-click, choose Restore, and choose Restore Active Directory. Like before, we will look at the calendar, choose our timestamp, select Active Directory in this case, and choose Next. I'll choose my Arcserve domain. I'll choose users in this case. And we can select to restore everything, or I can go in, choose a particular user, restore the complete user, or go in and restore just an attribute out of that object and choose that to restore. Click Next. Then we'll be prompted with our restore options, how to resolve conflicts, and whether or not we have any type of password or encryption applied. We would then select Next for the restore to occur. Let's take a look at the other restore options that we have as well. We have the option to recover VM. If it was a virtual machine that was backed up, I could recover that virtual machine back into a virtual environment. And if we're using the file copy feature of UDP, we can browse the file copies in order to restore the individual files. Let's cancel out of this restore and come back into the UDP console. We'll now take a look at the other tabs such as Jobs, Reports, Log, and Configuration. We will now take a look at some of the other tabs. The Jobs tab is the tab where we will see the status of current jobs that might be running in progress, successful jobs that are completed, jobs that are failed or canceled. This will be organized by most recent jobs. However, we can take a look at the last 24 hours, the last 7 days, or a custom time frame if we wish to look at it that way as well. This will show all the jobs, replication, backup, any type of job that we have scheduled to run. If a job is currently running in progress, we'll be able to drill down into the detail of that job to see information such as throughput, compression, deduplication ratios as the backup is occurring. The Reports tab is where we'll be able to go in and look at our reports. All of these reports are customizable, and we can also schedule them to be emailed, and we can also print them. If we take a look at our alerts reports, data trending, backup size trending reports, node backup status reports, virtualization protection status reports, managed capacity reports. This is a particularly useful report to let you understand the amount of data that you are protecting. And when we look at data distribution media report, we can actually see the benefits of the deduplication that we are currently getting. All of these reports are selectable. If I click on a report, as I just did with the data distribution media report, we'll see that it breaks it down per the particular machine in this case. Let's take a look at our Log tab. Under the Log tab, we'll be able to go in and look at the individual severity of warnings, whether it's a warning, an error, or information. We can organize this by the particular time, last 24 hours, last 7 days, or a custom time frame. We can search for a particular node, where it was generated from, the job ID, or the message itself. We can also break this down by the type of job, backup, replication, restore, etc. I'd like to also note that if we go back to our Jobs tab and we look at all jobs completed and we select a job, we can go to View Logs directly from here and it will take us to the Log tab. It will show us the logs for that job. This is particularly useful when you're trying to look at an error and you want to see what happened and not have to sort through all the errors that are out there. Under the Configuration tab, we'll use this tab to set up our email and alert configuration, update our administrative account information, share our plans with another UDP console, set up our Arcserve backup data synchronization schedule, our node discovery configuration, email and alert configuration, our update configuration to check for updates, our administrator account information in case it changes, our installation settings, and share our plans. The final tab is the High Availability tab, where we will set up full system high availability. Like virtual standby, we will cover full system high availability in a future advanced demo. In summary, the Resources tab is the tab where you will do the majority of your configuration, backup, and restores. This is where we will set up and import our nodes. This is where we will define our destinations and create our backup plans. By right-clicking on a machine, we can choose to restore, backup now, and in the case of other features such as virtual standby, we would have those as well. This brings us to the end of our tour of Arcserve Unified Data Protection. For more detailed information, please review the content on arcserve.com, or you can contact or chat with an Arcserve sales representative. And remember, Arcserve UDP is assured recovery.